Hello students, you might be knowing that we have been learning Unit 4 since last 3-4 lectures. Today, some part from that one, that is vital force theory, and from Unit 5, that is transpiration, that today we are going to learn here in this today's our lecture from your plant physiology paper 2nd. So first we will get idea about the Unit 4 remaining part of that one, and then we will go for the today itself to the 5th unit from your syllabus, that is transpiration. So first we are going to learn that is related with vital force theory. Students, we know that there is one of the transpiration pull theory is given by the scientist, isn't it? Transpiration pull theory given by the scientist. So how we have to prove that, isn't it? Experimentally, or we know that in case of the science always there should be the proofs. Without proof nothing can be done. Am I right? So proofs are required, and that proofs we can put forth to the other scientific community. Then only we will be able to get actually the that is correct or wrong, all sort of the things are there, isn't it? Now in that one, when we are going to say that because of transpiration some pull, some pressure, some suction pressure develops into the xylem, tracheids and vessels, and that is responsible for the absorption of a water, isn't it? So this vital theory, some experiments are carried by the scientist, and which is that experiment? That demonstration experiment we can conduct at our laboratories, that we can show to the people, where we have to say that transpiration suction pressure is responsible for the absorption of a capillary water from the soil by the roots to the other part of the plant, isn't it? So that we have to prove. For that one, this experiment is having a lot of experiments. So which is this experiment? What the things are required to that one? Then what we have to do for this experiment? So this is a demonstration of a transpiration pool. First of all, what we have to do? We have to take a slight wide mouth, isn't it? Side little bit, take a slight wide mouth glass tube, open at both ends. You have to select, we have to take a slightly wide mouth glass tube which could be open at both the ends. Now second step is that cut the leafy twig of any plant in the water. Keep in mind, we have to cut first of all, or take a leafy twig from the outside or from the garden fresh, and then that we have to means lower part of that leafy twig is to be deep under the, we have to say that the under the water, and there we have to make the cut and insert in the upper mouth of the glass tube with the help of a rubber cork. You have to keep in mind, upper mouth, wide mouth of a tube, whatever we have selected for the experiment, in that one we have to insert a first of all the cork, and that cork should have a hole, and through that hole we have to leafy twig is to be inserted from its lower side, and that is to be deep into the water immediately, isn't it? Now similarly, connect the capillary tube to the lower mouth of the glass tube, the wide mouth glass tube. Upper end we have closed with the cork, and then we have added into that one leafy twig, but lower also mouth of that is to be fitted with a capillary tube in the lower mouth with the help of, again you have to keep in mind, with the help of a rubber cork. Before entering the plant, fill up the tube with water. So before filling or inserting a leafy twig which was cut under the water in the cork, upper mouth of the cork hole, so we have to first of all fill up the glass tube. Now place the capillary tube in the beaker. Now that capillary which we have attached to that our open mouth glass tube from lower side, so that capillary tube we have to place in such a beaker which is having a mercury. Set the complete experiment, my friends, with the help of all this stand. in sunlight. That is most important, because this experiment we have to keep into the sunlight just as to see how the transpiration pool is responsible for the absorption of a water. Now friends, this is a sketch, this is a diagram which I have just now talked with you about this one. This is a demonstration of a, we have to say that, the sketch. This is wide mouth having glass tube, isn't it? Now lower side we have attached with the capillary tube, and the capillary tube we have placed into the beaker or container having the mercury. There is the mercury, isn't it? And this glass tube we have, before inserting this leafy twig which was cut under the below the water, we have filled this tube with water, and then we have inserted the leafy twig. So here this demonstration of a transpiration pool experiment, we can see how to we have to set up this experiment. After setting, no doubt we have to keep into the sunlight, expose this leafy twig to the sunlight itself. So here we can find beaker is there in which mercury is there. Lower capillary tube of a capillary tube we have deep into the mercury. From lower mouth we have added the cork, and through that cork this we have to say that the glass tube we have added. Again clamp is there of this स्टँडच्या क्लॅम्पने इथं ही ट्यूब काय केलेली आहे, पूर्णपणे टाईट केलेली आहे. नंतर ग्लास ट्यूब आहे, मी सांगितलं मगाशी की दिस इज अ होल राऊंड, दिस इज अ ग्लास ट्यूब. अँड स्टेम लिफी ट्विग इज दिस वन, लिफी ट्विग, द ट्विग हॅव्हिंग अ लीप आर द फ्रेश ट्विग घ्यायची, ड्राय घ्यायची नाही. दॅट इज मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टंट व्हॉट वी हॅव टू डू ॲज अ सायन्स स्टुडंट, बिकॉज ईच अँड एव्हरीथिंग यू हॅव टू बी manage very carefully. Now after some time, keep in mind friends, after some time what will be happen? After some time you will observe that mercury start ascending in the capillary tube. लक्षात ठेवा, keep in mind, ascending means upward movement of a mercury will start in the, we have to say that tube. Why does happen? ये क्यों हो रहा है? What is the cause behind it? The reason is that already we have kept this experiment set into the sunlight, and because of that one, the sunlight, the leaves transpires the water whatever present in the leaf, and due to that transpiration, suction is created, suction pressure is created, absorption capacity potential created into the xylem vessels called the transpiration. And such a type of a pool whatever developed during the, we have to say that because of transpiration the pool is developed. That's why that pool which is developed into the xylem vessel is known as a transpiration pool, resulting in increased in the mercury column of the capillary tube, isn't it? Now in other words, the mercury ascends means upward movement of mercury we can find in the capillary tube due to, we have to say that definitely the transpiration pool develops into the xylem tracheids and vessels because of transpiration of a water through the leaf, isn't it? From leaf to that comes into the xylem tracheids and vessel, and that again goes into the root of the plant. So root starts absorption of the water like that one. But one proper care we have to take at the time of setting of this experiment is that, my friends, students, the plant twig which we are going to use, leafy plant twig, that is to be cut in the water, below the water, to avoid the entry of a air bubble and blockage of the xylem vessels. So at the time of setting of this demonstration experiment, we will have to take a proper care that the leafy twig which we have selected from the taken from the garden, that leafy twig we have to cut from lower side, isn't it? Freshly we have to make a slanting cut below the water, so that what happens actually, the air bubble, suppose we have done that one in the open air, so what air can enter there, transpiration will take place naturally and some gap will be developed there, and in that gap suppose gas or air is there. So definitely when we will set up the experiment at that time, the continuous column will not be developed into the absorption of water, and suppose although there is a transpiration pool, that transpiration pool will not be able to dissolve that air bubble. So continuous things. So this is most important thing is there that we have to manage very well. Now friend, here today we have completed the topic that was we have been learning, or unit 4 from your syllabus, and immediately we are starting very interesting, my favorite topic, my favorite unit from plant physiology. I will say that is a transpiration. Now what is transpiration? Transpiration is nothing but the loss of water in the form of water vapor through the aerial parts of plant body is known as a transpiration. Friends, always I used to say that you will have to divide the definition into 3 parts, at least 3 parts. So here is what going to take place during the transpiration. There is a loss of water. One point is there, but in which form? That is in the vapor form. From where? Actually through the aerial parts of the plant body, and that is known as the transpiration. So here 3 parts we have made. What things are going to loss from the aerial parts of plant body? So water. In which form? There is a loss of water in the form of water through the aerial parts, that is in the form of a vapor, and through which? So that is the aerial parts of the plant body, all which are above the soil, isn't it? So that is the definition of a transpiration. So but you will have to keep in mind there is a lot of difference in between evaporation and transpiration. As first of all we have learned the definition of that one, we have to keep in mind transpiration is a biological phenomenon. It is controlled by the guard cells of the stomata. It takes place through the surface of the leaves. It takes place due to osmotic pressure. Here not cosmotic, this is actually osmotic. This is due to the osmotic pressure, and another pressure, that is a suction pressure, which is develops due to the transpiration of a water, and it takes place in living cells. The temperature of the plant maintained due to the transpiration. So these are the very important points of the transpiration. That transpiration process is a biological process. This is controlled by the guard cells. Also it takes place through the surface of the leaves. We know that actually stomata are present in the leaves of the plant. That's why. So there are the further types we have to learn. Not only the transpiration takes place through the leaves only or through the stomata, but through the cuticle. Again, we have to say that through the lenticels, so through the lenticular transpiration. But you have to keep in mind the body temperature of the each and every plant is maintained because of the process of a transpiration. Now what is the difference between evaporation and this biological process, that is of a transpiration? Here we will be able to see very clearly the difference into that one. The evaporation is a simple physical phenomenon, isn't it? Evaporation is a simple physical phenomenon, and we know that the transpiration is the biological phenomenon. Here the evaporation is not controlled by the guard cell, but transpiration is controlled by the guard cell. It takes place through the any surface. We know that whenever there is a water present on the glass or present on the rocks or present on the other hard part, any things are there, we can see the evaporation. We know that whenever there is a hot plate is there on the we have to say that the burning or lightened gas, at that time we can see when we add the water evaporates. So that is from the physical we have to say that this phenomenon we can able to see, because that is not controlled by the any living things, guard cell. And here nothing is suction pressure of the water or osmotic pressure are involved in this process. No suction pressure, no osmotic pressure, which we have seen in case of the transpiration. Friends, this difference you have to write in your notebook in case of the transpiration and in case of the evaporation. So if you will see this difference, if you will write that difference, then you will come to know that how there is a lot of difference in between the evaporation and transpiration process. Now plant cells are not required. In case of evaporation there is no need of a plant cells, but in case of transpiration plant cells are required. Also it has a no relation with the plant temperature, but in case of the transpiration having a lot of relation with the plant, because of transpiration the temperature of the plant decreases. So there is a relation, but in case of evaporation there is no, we have to say that the Any? Now, my friends, from the transpiration, we have learned the definition, we have learned the difference between the evaporation and transpiration. Now, very interesting point we are going to learn, that is of related with the types of transpiration. So friends, there are the three main types of the transpiration, that is a cuticular transpiration, lenticular transpiration and stomatal transpiration. These classes or these types of the transpiration, P is there, transpiration, you have to make it correction here. These three types actually are depend upon through which transpiration process takes place, through which water loss takes place in the form of a water vapors. So no doubt cuticular transpiration means definitely the transpiration takes place through the cuticle of the cells, and lenticular, that is through the lenticels, and stomatal, definitely that is through the stomatal. Now, here cuticular transpiration, the loss of water in the form of water vapors from the cuticle of the various aerial parts of the plant is called as a cuticular transpiration. Already I have told you. Now you will have to keep in mind how much quantity of total absorbed water is transpired through the cuticle transpiration. That is only 5 to 10%. 5 to, this is a 5 to only 10% is there. How much? 5 to 10%. Keep in mind, through the cuticle, out of total absorbed water, समजा जर 100 ml पाणी घेतलं असलं तर 5 ते 10 ml पाणी जे ट्रान्सपायर होतं, that is through the cuticle itself. The plant growing in a shady places transpired up to the 15%. त्यांनी सांगितलं की when plants are growing in a shady places, सावली आहे, सावली त्यावेळेला 15% फक्त ट्रान्सपायर होतं, that is because of cuticular transpiration. In the water लॉस इन झिरोफायटिक प्लांट्स क्वाईट लिटिल ऑर निग्लिजिबल. झिरोफाईटमधनं पाणी कमी जातं. याचं कारण असं आहे, यू विल हॅव टू कीप इन माइंड दे आर ग्रोईंग इन सच एरिया वेअर द अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ वॉटर टू द प्लांट इज ए व्हेरी व्हेरी लेस. म्हणून कमी पाणी उपलब्ध आहे, कमी पाण्याचा वापर करणार आणि कमी पाणी त्याच्यातनं बाहेर जाऊन देईल, लॉस होऊन देईल. सो दॅट इज इन केस ऑफ द झिरोफायटिक प्लांट्स. इन फ्लावर्स, स्टेम्स and fruits mainly cuticular transpiration is found. Cuticular transpiration आपल्याला कुठल्या बाबतीमध्ये दिसेल? In case of the flowers, in case of the stem, in case of the fruits, we can be able to see. So cuticle is there, one of the layer, we know that. So through that one. Now, lenticular transmission, definitely the loss of water in the form of a water vapors through the lenticels. Loss of water in the form of a water vapors through the lenticels. That's why that type of a transpiration is known as a lenticular transpiration. Lenticels are small pores. What are those? Small pores below the bark of a old tree. So lenticular transpiration will not be able to see in case of the jowar, bajra, because they are not the trees. Am I right? They are not having the bark on their body, their stem. That is the main cause is that. So you'll have to keep in mind lenticular cells. Lenticular transpiration is nothing but the transpiration takes place through the lenticels. That's why that type of a transpiration is known as a lenticular transpiration. And lenticels are the small pores which are present below the bark of the old trees that will not be able to see in case of the small trees, or we have to say that the grasses or crop plant. Friends, each and everything you will have to note here. Now the last but most important type of a transpiration, that is a stomatal transpiration. Because why I have said most important? Because 80 to 90% of the total absorbed water is loss takes place through the transpiration, that is a stomatal, isn't it? 80 to 90. So body temperature of the each and every plant, whenever they are standing in a hot, too much hot atmosphere, or exposed to the sunlight, or exposed at a 12 o'clock in summer season, also their body temperature, we can, if you will touch to the stem of that one, you will come to know that temperature is very or normal temperatures there. That is because of the transpiration. Water loss continuously takes place. We feels very cold when we in the summer session we go below the or in the shade of a plant. At that time we feel very, we have to say that pleasant or little bit cold atmosphere there we can find. That is because of a loss of water, and atmosphere whatever present in that shady places is a little bit humid. Now stomatal transpiration, already I have said to you, my friends, you go through that, then you will come to know that whenever there is a wheat, gram, maize, mustard and potato, it is also transpired through the stomata, because through the transpiration takes place through the stomata itself. The water loss of a 250 tons per day per acre has been recorded from the wheat crop. friends, whenever there is a wheat crop that is of a only acre area, from that acre area actually 250 tons, isn't it, water losses takes place within a day from a acre wheat crop, standing wheat crop is there in that acre area. So you'll have to keep in mind all these things related with the, today we have learned transpiration process. Transpiration is nothing but the loss of water in the form of a water vapors through the aerial parts of the plant body, and we have learned the three types of that one. That is the first one, definitely the cuticular, because transpiration takes place through the cuticle, that's why that is cuticular. Next one, that is the lenticels or lenticular, because the transpiration takes place through the lenticels. And last but most important, third type of that transpiration is the stomatal transpiration, because there is a loss of water in the form of water vapors through the stomata takes place, and that is a through the stomata, that's why that is known as stomatal transpiration. And this stomatal transpiration always transpires or losses the water in the atmosphere out of total absorbed 80 to 95%, sorry 80 to 90%. So this is all about today's our lecture, and with this my friends, I would like to say to you thanks, and next lecture tomorrow we are going to see. Thank you.